pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I feel like I've been in a fight with Tyson. Okay, roll call again.
Yep, sorry.
Chairman Dale Massett.
Here.
Vice Chairman Terrence Rowe.
Here.
Member Jenny Sorrell.
Here.
Member William Dittmer.
Here.
Member Richard Bloom.
Here.
City Attorney James Matthew.
Here.
City Manager Vincent Lupo.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, motion to approve board minutes.
Motion to approve. The minutes.
Seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Announcement. Any announcements? General public. Go ahead, Mrs. Spalding.
Sandra Spaldy, 8612 Dean Street. I just want to bring one thing to everybody's attention. In case they forgot through the years, we're here at our CRA meeting. We are receiving CRA money. And if I remember correctly, we only got CRA because we blighted the city. I'm going to leave you with that.
She's right.
What is that?
She's right.
I didn't hear what you said. You're addicted to right.
No, I share it with you.
Okay.
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Brown wants to speak.
What did you? Mr. Brown.
I did sign up to speak.
Okay. You probably get anything past we're so tired.
Thomas Brown, 7436 Candlelight Court. State of Florida Statute 163, 355 deals with what a community can and cannot do with CRA funds. Part of the city rulebook on CRA spending states that the city approves redevelopment and rehabilitation of blighted areas. Now, here's a quote right from the city rulebook. Quote, "The city of Port Richey has declared an area encompassing the entire community to be blighted," unquote. So we all live in a blighted area. If the mayor wanted to sell his residence and I wanted to buy it, the bank might not lend me the money to buy a house in a blighted area. I don't think the entire city should be considered blighted.
You are benefiting from that, is all I can tell you. Anyone else from the public?
There ain't nobody, Jeff.
Rusa? I'm just being unstrung. Okay, Mr. Lupo, you want to take this over? I think it's self-explanatory.
Yeah, basically, with the documents that we have supplied you is the current budgeted CRA activities. What I'd like to pass out to you is an additional amplification of, yeah, but that's expanded, I expanded the pie chart so that it would be easier to discuss the issues. Essentially, the community development, the CRA funds for fiscal year total of $1,388,658. And it, as you see the depiction of a pie chart, those are the approximate percentage expenditures within each one of those categories. And they are specifically contingencies in the amount of $319,310, capital outlay approximately $360,000, economic development $33,895, public works $45,740, building building department $20,000, fire department $46,800, legal $14,000, and administration $42,500 for a total of $82,245 of expenses. The total budget is depicted on the far right-hand side for all departments, including payroll. Payroll expenses are approximately 36% of the total budget, and capital and other department projects are approximately 64% of the total budget. Now again, this is this current year's budget as presented to you and approved by you during your last, during our last CRA budget event. As I've told you, I tried to explain on several different occasions, and in fact at the last budget hearing, it is my understanding that your desire is to continue to reduce dependency, payroll dependency on CRA funding, and to increase project expenditures on the other side of the equation by reducing dependency on the CRA employee function. Last budget cycle, I did reduce that amount, and I don't have the current figures because they haven't been given to us from my county yet, but it's my intention to reduce another amount, hopefully somewhere in the 20% range, a reduction of dependence upon the CRA funding. And that's my intention, and I hope to bring those numbers to you during our next budget process. The difficulty, obviously, is that we don't have those numbers, and we are just now working on the project. The major expenditures that came forward in this budget cycle, of course, was the completion of the DMMA site and the dredging of Channel 19, and that was the major expenditures. Part of the reserves that are set aside are to allow us to pay up front during the next cycle, because we have to pay up front in order to be reimbursed by the Restore Act funds, and that's how that system will work. We pay, submit the bills, and then they refund us. At this stage, previous administrations have utilized CRA funds as a mechanism to produce then desired effects at a reduction of or a suppression of the millage rate. My philosophy has been to provide as maximum impact to projects and a reduction in dependency upon CRA funds for employment purposes, and to allow our rate structure to be as legitimate and viable as possible. At this point, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions, Councilman.
Now, I want to say something. Oh,
That's all right. Oh, as we're going through, I know we're trying to titrate down the CRA to enrollment. Can we set a goal, like, to try to be CRA completely off in the next 2 years? Because if you're going to start talking about 20, that's going to bring us down to about 16%, which seems to me like the next fiscal year after that, that would be a 16. I mean, I think we need to set a goal too, because once that homestead issue kicks in, we're going to have less income into the city, and I think if we're off of that by then, I think we'll be in good shape.
I had in fact mentally set a project goal from the day I got here to be entirely off of CRA funds within a maximum of 4 years. We've already done a major reduction. I hope to do another major reduction, one more following year, and at that point in time, we'll know exactly where we're at. We could be pretty close to zeros.
Right.
I believe I'm at target or close to it.
Yeah, talking about what you're saying, you're 20%, that would put us at a 16%, which sounds doable then for the following year at 16%.
Yes, the standard, please understand that you should never, it would be ill-advised to go to zero, and there's a rationale behind that. and that is, they are legitimate expenditures, administrative expenditures, that should be assigned to the CRA function, because the CRA is a citywide function.
Which is fine, as long as we can show that.
Oh,
Well-
there's no
Yeah.
question about that.
Excuse me. I believe this comes very close to coming in line with what the county wants, but I agree with you, we should keep weaning off because it may be gone.
Right.
But I will guarantee you, no other city in this county is close to this.
Well, let's be the first, because we were at that county meeting, and that came
But-
up, you know.
But zero is ridiculous, because we
No.
have to use our people.
No, I'm just speaking about a general grant philosophy. Grants cost money to operate and to facilitate whatever the objective of that grant is. So we are lawfully allowed to spend a percentage of funds for the achievement of the goals that we all outline, and I understand that you agree with
And if we show that
that.
allocation as grants and not payroll, in other words, can it be written in a way that says this is being used for the application of certain grants? Not that, that's where we run into the problem. People look at that and still think we're gonna be paying salaries with it. Not that, I understand your point, but if we show it in a different way, just as you explained.
I
This is
could-
grants and the CRA?
No, that's straight CRA. That is the straight Community Redevelopment Fund accounts.
Okay.
The issue is, you can use different terminology, but the fact of the matter is that they will be, in fact, expenditures
That's
from
fine.
that column.
That's understandable.
But when the county looks at this, these are perfectly legal, right?
There's 4 sections that are perfectly legal.
And then when you
And
say.
so are I'm sorry, but
The rest
so
of
are
them
the
are too.
rest.
I think the rest are too, because you look, police, 4%, government, 3%, that we are using something.
Yes, absolutely, and that is part and parcel
So
of
we're
an
getting-
allowable
we're gonna be
expenditure within the
shiny.
CRA funds. But it is, I believe, this council's desire to reduce as much as is practical and feasible, the reduction of dependency on CRA funding for salaries. It's pure and simple. And that is also my goal. And we'll come to grips with that during this coming budget cycle when we have the actual numbers. And then you'll be able to juxtapose the value of utilizing whatever percentage towards employee versus ad valorem funds from a different source, which will affect our millage rate. So last year, I was able to come to this council, and council approved a budget that gave us a marginal decrease in millage and a marginal, I call marginal, decrease in
CRA.
dependency on CRA. It is my hope, desire, and goal to do the exact same thing again with this coming budget.
If it ain't going up, it ain't even marginal.
But you have to, when you add this to the other objectives of this administration, which is to administer the government as cost-effectively and efficiently as possible. There are some other changes that I'll be coming to council with very shortly that'll incorporate some of these thoughts and ideas and actual changes where I can demonstrate to you how I'm going to be reducing the budget, how I'm going to be reallocating funds, and hopefully altering position structure and payments within individual positions so that I present a more valid and actual picture of what our employment process
Let
and
me ask you a
payments are.
question, Vince.
Yes, sir.
As we look back, well, no, I'm sorry, I'm looking backwards. This is our revenue, 1,388,000?
Yes, sir. Your revenue has been increasing. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And it
so
will, and
This was what?
from
We have
left to right.
projects coming online too that are gonna generate more revenue
Exactly.
Right, we have
What
impact fees
Mr.
that are coming
Schatzel
into
gave
play,
you will show you
plus, yeah,
that
And that'll be,
966 this
that'll be
year.
part and parcel of how I'll be
offsetting
restructuring.
it, yes.
So we budgeted 1.3 million.
Oh, we budgeted.
We over budgeted to 400,000. Because we had,
Okay,
you want me to explain it? I can explain it a little bit.
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, you have several things going on during the budget process. I guess 2 months from now, you'll discuss this more, but it's Mr. Schatzel's, as you see, we had TIF funding, it's tax incremental funding, going back to 2004. We had $966,000 came in. It used to be over $1 million, remember? Years ago, it's 966,000. I presume with values up, next year it'll be more, it'll probably break the $1 million. Schatzel knows that all this money comes in on 2 months, right? But he prorates it as if it was seasonal, okay? So we plan to spend 400,000 more than that, and the reason that was done is because the budget I did the year before, we had 400,000 left over, so Mr. Lupo knows that. So we plan to do that. And as you can see, how much he spent here. One of the problems here, as Mr. Lupo was alluding to, is we've spent $365,000. Now we're gonna spend $666,000 on the Restore Act, but we need to have that cash to get paid back. How long it's gonna take to get paid back, we're working on that. We keep asking, and so we're trying to cross every T and dot every I. But so we're actually building some money up in there a little bit, so we have cash flow that we don't have to go to a bank and start borrowing.
Which was
Okay.
part of the rollover from the prior.
That's correct.
Exactly.
So we kind of rolled that over one
Right.
time and not spent it. And so what's gonna happen is, I guess, once we've done that portion of the project, then you'll catch it up, because you'll have that money, and
Yep.
the next year will be good. Now, what's gonna happen is, you may have the homestead exemption, looks like it's
It's
gonna
gonna
pass.
happen, yeah.
And when that does, we have no way to run those numbers. I don't think we're gonna get an impact that is probably Hillsborough or something. We tried to get the figures, didn't we, Aaron, a year or
Still
so
not.
ago? There's no one out there. One of the cities that was in the paper got somebody in to do their mathematics, but it's gonna hurt us a little bit, so how much, I don't know. So I was just chatting with the both of you before, the red light camera net's down to $250 a year. I don't think, we're gonna win, they've won all the lawsuits, so even if the state legislature comes in, the most we'll lose is 250,000, so we're pretty stable on that, but that's what's going on in this budget.
Correct.
That was the issues
Yep,
that you
nope,
wanna do in
yep.
the policy, but that's kinda why the numbers look a little funny, we were kinda building it for that.
Yeah, we talked about that rollover prior.
Yeah, but we knew that was coming, that's why we didn't spend it last year.
For you newbie counselors, we have a great team here. We really do. Both of these guys are A+. So with that, do we have anything else?
Yes,
Just a
there-
road.
just, I'm sorry.
You got something?
Yes, I wanted to sincerely thank my staff. I think they're some of the best people, and this city is absolutely fortunate to have them.
Our staff.
I said our staff.
You said mine.
Okay, our staff. Our finance department, no audit exceptions. Last budget, and I did it, I wanted to make sure that Mr. Colombo heard it. No audit exceptions in the last cycle, no audit exceptions in this cycle. We're moving on a solid path. With Jocelyn working our grant efforts, with Chris running out there, and with Bill, we're really firing on all 8 cylinders. And we're moving in the right direction, I believe.
Jocelyn. Mr. Franco keeps telling me there is FEMA money to raise houses on the water. Have you found?
No, but we can keep looking into it.
Keep
but no.
looking. If you find me just a name and somebody to call, I have some new neighbors that are MBAs, and they said, we don't want our names on it, but we'll call and find out. And, you know, and they can work it as well as we can, you just don't have as much time as they do,
Sure, we'll keep looking.
okay? Mr. Rowe.
Well, Will mentioned something, when we were at the county during that meeting, I was troubled by something, and that was the defeatist attitude that the commissioners had toward CRA funding in the future. I look ahead, and we've got a lot of little old towns in Florida. We're one of them. We lose CRA, and their dream of having this waterfront, beautiful community, prosper and grow and all that is going to be taxed with a burden that it won't have the dollars to do the things that they want to see done. Now, in my opinion, and I'm really sticking my neck out here since I work there, but I would challenge the BOCC to fight for those funds for us. Yes, they were improperly set up the first time and people abused them. So this time, learn from your mistakes and set this thing up so that people cannot use it in a form that they would not be comfortable with. It should be used for blight.
Yep.
And for improving old cities. So I would challenge them, and I will make a motion now that this CRA board write a resolution to the county, and I hope other small cities would do the same. Newport Richey is in the same boat we are, and so many others. Hopefully they would follow our lead and try to persuade our county commissioners across Florida to push the state legislature to keep the CRA. We need it if we're going to make Florida a beautiful place and improve the older cities. Otherwise, we're going to be completely left out. The Wiregrasses and the Wesley Chapels and all these wonderful new places will prosper, and we will die on the vine.
I think if we show our weaning off of CRA funds in inappropriate, well, deemed inappropriate areas, you're exactly right. We can see this can be done. This is the way it can be done right. This is why we need CRA funds in the future. And I think we could lead the way.
Okay.
You know, Mr. Lupo, we're showing that we're doing it, and that's a perfect thing. Well, like that next meeting, we could bring that right up at next county meeting.
How much we went off?
That we are taking steps to reduce, have a time frame. Say,
Yeah.
you know, we have a time frame to cut our usage.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to go into that meeting with a resolution in hand, so I made that motion. I'm looking for a second.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we got a motion and a second, and the motion was adopt a resolution to present to
To
the
have,
city council, city
Continue.
commissioners.
Support the
Right.
continuance of
support
CRA.
and continue and fight for the CRA for the
Future funding.
cities
Yeah.
of Pasco County.
Okay, and let's just take a quick vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Now, I do want to say one other thing. I have been approached by one of the commissioners, or a couple of them, about reducing our red lines. Now, you know, they're kind of saying, we're going to take away the CRA, but we want you to reduce the red lights because we want this section to be not looked at as Waldo, Florida. And I don't know how much that would affect our budget.
$230,000.
$230,000.
Yeah.
So I'm just, that's FYI.
That's all we're down to now is 230, but still, that's a chunk of change.
It's amazing we didn't used to have it, and now
Exactly.
we're so dependent on it.
Imagine that.
When I was in medical school, they said, I talked to one of my mentors, and there's so many doctors, what's gonna happen? And he said, the community will expand to meet the amount of physicians, and this government will expand to meet the amount of money we get. Okay. And anybody else wanna say anything?
Yep.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Can't oppose it.
Good night, all. Thanks for staying so
Thank you.
late.
Oh, what a great.